The crash landing. On a distant planet, colors danced across the sky like a painting brought to life. This was the planet Vespera, a place full of strange plants and strange creatures. Alex, a human explorer, had landed here in his small spaceship. He had dreamed of adventure, but he never expected to end up in a place like this. As his ship descended, a sudden burst of energy caused it to shake violently. Alarms blared, and the control panel flickered. "Oh no!" Alex shouted, gripping the controls tightly. He tried to steer the ship, but it was no use. The ship spiraled down through the thick atmosphere of Vespera and crashed into a lush forest, sending leaves flying everywhere. Dazed but unharmed, Alex stepped out of the wreckage. The air was thick and humid, and the smell of wet earth filled his nose. As he looked around, he saw towering trees with bright blue leaves and strange flowers that glowed in the dark. "This place is amazing," he thought, but a wave of worry washed over him. He was far from home, and his ship was damaged. He needed to find help. Just then, he heard a sound that sent chills down his spine. It was a scream, piercing the quiet of the forest. The sound was unlike anything he had ever heard. It was high-pitched and filled with fear. Without thinking, Alex followed the sound, his heart racing. "I have to help," he thought. He pushed through the thick underbrush, and the screams grew louder. Soon, he stumbled into a clearing and stopped dead in his tracks. In front of him was a creature with long, slimy tentacles. It was towering over a small, fragile figure. Alex squinted and realized it was an alien girl, her eyes wide with terror. The creature lunged, but the girl managed to dodge its grasp. "Hey!" Alex shouted, surprising himself with his own bravery. He couldn't let this creature hurt her. He picked up a large branch from the ground and charged at the beast. "Get away from her," he yelled. The creature turned its attention to him, its many eyes narrowing in annoyance. Alex swung the branch with all his might, hitting the creature's side. It shrieked, its tentacles flailing wildly. With a few more strikes, Alex managed to scare it away. The creature retreated into the shadows, leaving the girl trembling but unharmed. Breathing heavily, Alex turned to her. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. The girl looked up at him, her wide eyes filled with confusion. She had pale blue skin that shimmered in the light, and her hair floated around her head like it was underwater. "Why did you help me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I couldn't just stand by and do nothing," Alex replied, his heart still pounding. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As they stood there in the clearing, the forest around them seemed to come alive. Birds with vibrant feathers sang overhead, and strange creatures watched from the bushes. Alex felt a strange connection with Lyra. He had saved her life, but he also realized that he might need her help to survive in this alien world. The two of them shared a moment of silence, unsure of what would happen next. Little did they know, this encounter would change both their lives forever. The mysterious girl. Lyra stood in the soft light of the forest, her heart still racing from the encounter with the creature. She looked at Alex with a mix of fear and curiosity. He was unlike anyone she had ever seen. His clothes were strange, made of materials she could not understand, and his hair was dark and messy. She felt a strange pull toward him, but her past experiences with humans made her hesitant. "Why did you save me?" Lyra asked, her voice soft and cautious. She took a small step back, unsure of this human who had come to her rescue. "I couldn't just let that creature hurt you," Alex replied, trying to sound brave. "I didn't even think about it. I just acted." He smiled slightly, hoping to ease her fear. Lyra studied him, her glowing skin shifting from pale blue to a gentle shade of green, reflecting her mixed emotions. She had heard stories about humans, stories of both kindness and cruelty. "But humans are dangerous," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. "You could have left me there." Alex's heart sank. "I know there are bad humans, But I promise I'm not like them, he said earnestly. I'm just an explorer. I came to learn about new worlds, not to hurt anyone. Lyra felt a spark of hope. She was alone on this strange planet, and for the first time, she had met someone who didn't seem to want to harm her. Yet her past haunted her. She remembered the humans who had hurt her people, capturing them for their powers. It was hard for her to trust. Can you help me? Alex asked, breaking her thoughts. My ship is damaged, and I need to find a way to fix it. Maybe you can show me how to survive here. Lyra hesitated, but something in Alex's eyes made her want to help. She nodded slowly. Okay, but you must promise to be careful. This forest has many dangers. Of course, Alex agreed, grateful for her willingness to assist him. They began to walk deeper into the forest, the vibrant colors surrounding them becoming even more stunning. The trees were tall and twisted, their leaves shimmering in hues of blue and purple. Strange creatures scurried around, watching them with curious eyes. As they walked, Alex tried to learn more about Lyra. What's your home like? He asked, hoping to make her feel comfortable. It's beautiful, she replied, her voice softening. There are mountains that touch the stars and rivers that sparkle like diamonds. But my people are scared of humans. They think you all want to capture us. I understand why they feel that way, Alex said gently. But not everyone is like that. I just want to learn and explore. I want to understand your world. Lyra looked at him, surprised by his honesty. She felt the warmth of his words, and for the first time, she started to feel safe. They continued walking until they reached a small stream. The water was clear and cool, and it sparkled in the light. Lyra knelt down to drink, and Alex followed her lead. As they rested, Alex noticed something strange about Lyra. Her skin glowed softly, changing colors as she moved. Why does your skin change like that? He asked, intrigued. It shows my feelings, she explained, touching her arm. When I'm scared, it turns blue. When I'm happy, it shines green. That's amazing. Alex said, his eyes wide with wonder. I wish I had something like that. Lyra smiled for the first time, and Alex felt a warmth spread in his chest. They were beginning to understand each other, bridging the gap between their worlds. As they shared their stories and laughter, the bond between them grew stronger, hinting at the adventures that lay ahead. But they both knew that the challenges of their worlds were still waiting for them, and trust would not come easy. Finding common ground. As the sun began to set on the strange world of Vespera, Alex and Lyra sat by the small stream, feeling a sense of comfort in each other's company. The soft sounds of the forest surrounded them, creating a peaceful atmosphere. But deep inside, both felt the weight of their differences. They were from two very different worlds, yet they found themselves together in this beautiful yet dangerous place. Can you show me more about your world? Alex asked, breaking the silence. He looked at Lyra with eager eyes. I want to understand everything. Lyra hesitated, her glowing skin shifting from green to a soft yellow. It's not easy to explain, she replied. But I can try. Please, Alex urged. I want to know about your people, your customs, and what life is like for you. It will help me understand you better. Taking a deep breath, Lyra began to share. My people live in harmony with nature. We believe in respecting all living things. We can communicate with plants and animals, and they help us in return. She smiled, her face lighting up with pride. Our homes are made from the trees, and we use the natural resources around us. That sounds beautiful, Alex said, fascinated. In my world, people often forget to take care of nature. We focus on buildings and technology. Lyra frowned slightly. That can be dangerous. When you don't care for nature, it can fight back. It's important to find balance. She paused, looking at the water flowing gently past them. But we also have our problems. Some of my people are afraid of humans. They think you want to use us for your own gain. I promise, I just want to learn. Alex said sincerely. I'm not like those humans you've heard about. He took a moment, gathering his thoughts. I've seen bad things in my world too. People hurting others for power. It's wrong. Lyra watched him carefully. She could see the honesty in his eyes. But how can I trust you? She asked. You are still a human. Alex nodded, understanding her fear. Trust takes time. Maybe we can start by helping each other. You can show me how to survive here, and I can help you with anything you need. Lyra considered this. All right, we can try. A smile broke across her face, and Alex felt a rush of relief. But first, let's find some food. I can show you which plants are safe to eat. They stood up and moved through the forest together, Lyra leading the way. She pointed out various plants, explaining their uses. This one, she said, pointing to a bright orange fruit, is sweet and full of energy. It will help you regain strength. As Alex took a bite, he was surprised by the burst of flavor. Wow, this is amazing, he exclaimed, his eyes widening. I've never tasted anything like it. Lyra laughed, her skin glowing a bright green. You're not so bad for a human, she teased, and Alex grinned back. The more they explored, the more they learned about each other. Alex showed Lyra how to make a simple fire using sticks and stones. This is how we cook food and keep warm at night, he explained. Lyra was amazed. You can make fire with just that. Incredible. She watched as the flames flickered to life, casting a warm glow around them. As night fell, they sat by the fire, sharing stories of their lives. Alex talked about his home on Earth, the cities, the people, and the stars. Lyra shared tales of her adventures in the forests of Vespera, her dreams of exploring other worlds. The stars began to twinkle overhead, and for the first time, they felt like they were not just a human and an alien, but friends finding common ground. They both realized that despite their differences, they could learn from each other, and together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The bond between them grew stronger, filled with hope and excitement for the journey to come. Trouble in paradise. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the forest of Vespera came alive with vibrant colors and sounds. Alex and Lyra woke to the gentle rustling of leaves and the cheerful calls of alien birds. The air was fresh and cool, filled with the promise of a new day. They had spent the night by the fire, sharing stories and laughter, and their friendship was growing stronger. Today, I will show you more about my home, Lyra said with excitement. Her skin glowed softly in shades of pink as she spoke. There's a beautiful waterfall not far from here. Let's go, Alex replied, filled with enthusiasm. He had never seen a waterfall on Earth, and the idea of experiencing one on this alien planet thrilled him. They set off through the forest, laughing and talking as they walked. Alex listened carefully as Lyra explained the plants and animals they passed. She pointed out flowers that changed color with the sun and small creatures that darted through the underbrush. But suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew tense, and Lyra's expression changed. We should be careful, she warned, her eyes scanning the trees. This is the territory of the Vesperan hunters. Hunters? Alex asked, his heart racing. What do they hunt? They hunt my people, Lyra replied, her voice trembling. They believe we have powers that can be used for their gain. They are dangerous and will not hesitate to capture us. Just then, Alex heard a snapping sound behind them. He turned quickly, and his stomach dropped. A group of tall, muscular aliens emerged from the shadows. They had dark, tough skin and fierce expressions. Each of them carried weapons made from the natural materials of the forest. Run, Lyra shouted, grabbing Alex's hand. They dashed through the trees, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The hunters were quick, their shouts echoing behind them. Get them, one of the hunters yelled, his voice booming. Alex and Lyra raced deeper into the forest, dodging branches and leaping over roots. This way, Lyra directed, leading them toward a thicket of bushes. They squeezed through, hoping to lose the hunters. They found themselves in a small clearing, panting and scared. Alex could hear the hunters crashing through the trees, getting closer. "We can't let them catch us," he said, glancing around for an escape route. Lyra looked at him, fear in her eyes. "We have to find a way to hide. They know these woods better than we do." Suddenly, Lyra spotted a large tree with hollow roots. "In there." She pointed, and they hurried to the tree, squeezing inside just as the hunters burst into the clearing. The two of them crouched low, their hearts racing as they listened to the hunters' voices. "They must have gone this way," one of the hunters said, looking around. "Split up and search the area." Alex held his breath, feeling the weight of the situation. He glanced at Lyra, who was trembling beside him. He reached out and squeezed her hand, trying to reassure her. "We'll be okay," he whispered. They watched as the hunters searched the clearing, moving closer to their hiding spot. The tension was thick, and Alex could feel his heart pounding in his chest. They had to stay quiet and still. After what felt like an eternity, the hunters moved away, heading deeper into the forest. Alex and Lyra waited a few moments longer before finally emerging from their hiding spot. "That was too close," Alex said, his voice shaking. "We need to find a safer place." Lyra nodded, her face pale. "We have to get away from here. If they catch us, they will take me, and I cannot let that happen." Realizing how dangerous their situation had become, Alex took a deep breath. "I won't let them take you. We'll figure this out together." With renewed determination, they began to move cautiously through the forest, knowing that danger was still lurking nearby. Their adventure had turned into a fight for survival, but Alex was ready to protect Lyra at all costs. Their bond had grown strong, and together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them. The bold rescue. The forest of Vespera was alive with sounds, but for Alex and Lyra, the peace was deceptive. They had spent hours moving cautiously through the thick underbrush, their hearts racing with every rustle and whisper of the wind. They needed to find a safe place away from the hunters who had chased them. "I think we lost them," Lyra whispered, her eyes scanning the trees. "But we can't stop moving yet. They will be back." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of their situation. "We need a plan," he said, trying to sound confident. "If they come after us again, we should be ready." As they continued through the forest, they came upon a massive tree with wide branches that could easily hide them. "What about there?" Alex suggested, pointing to the tree. Lyra agreed, and they climbed up into the branches, settling into a cozy nook where they could see but not be seen. The view from above was beautiful, with the sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. But the beauty was lost on them. Their minds were filled with worry. After a while, they heard voices below. The hunters were back, their harsh laughter echoing through the trees. "They can't have gone far," one of the hunters said. "We'll find them. They can't escape us." Lyra shivered at the sound of their voices. "What do we do now?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. Alex thought quickly. "We need to create a distraction. If we can draw them away, we can escape." Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide. "But how? They are strong and clever." "I have an idea," Alex said, determination flooding through him. He remembered the large stones he had seen earlier. "I can make noise to lead them away from you. Then you can find a safe place to hide." "No, you can't do that alone," Lyra insisted, her glowing skin shifting to a bright orange, reflecting her alarm. "It's too dangerous." "I'll be careful," Alex promised. "I can do this. You're more important to me than my safety." After a moment of hesitation, Lyra nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but you must come back. I don't want to lose you." Alex smiled softly, his heart swelling at her concern. "I'll be back. I promise." He climbed down quietly, peeking through the leaves to see where the hunters were. The hunters were gathered near the base of the tree, still searching. With a deep breath, Alex picked up a small rock and threw it toward a nearby bush, making a loud noise. "Did you hear that?" one of the hunters shouted, immediately turning his attention to the sound. "Let's check it out." With their focus shifted, Alex slipped away, moving quickly but quietly through the trees. He could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins. He had to lead them away from Lyra. As he darted through the underbrush, he threw more rocks and made noise, guiding the hunters deeper into the forest. "Over here," he called out, his voice loud and clear. "Come and get me." The hunters took the bait, their shouts growing louder as they chased after him. Alex led them away, feeling both fear and excitement. He was doing it. He was creating a chance for Lyra to escape. After a few minutes, Alex could hear the hunters' voices fading. He quickly turned and made his way back toward the tree where he had left Lyra. But as he arrived, his heart sank. Lyra was gone. "Lyra," he called, panic rising in his chest. "Where are you?" He searched the area, his mind racing. Just then, he spotted a flash of blue behind a nearby bush. Relief washed over him as he ran toward it. There was Lyra, crouched low, her eyes wide with worry. "I was scared," she whispered, relief flooding her face when she saw him. "I led them away," Alex said, catching his breath. "But we have to move quickly. They could come back." Together, they hurried through the forest, the bond between them stronger than ever. Alex had risked everything to protect Lyra, and she knew she could trust him. They were partners in this wild adventure, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the alien world. The secret hideout. After the close call with the hunters, Alex and Lyra moved swiftly through the forest, their hearts still pounding. They needed a safe place to rest and regroup, away from the dangers that lurked in the shadows. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground, and they knew they had to find shelter soon. "Do you know any safe spots around here?" Alex asked, glancing at Lyra, who was scanning the trees for any sign of danger. "Yes," she replied, her eyes brightening. "There's a hidden cave not far from here. My people use it as a refuge when there's trouble." "A cave?" Alex asked, intrigued. "Lead the way." Lyra nodded, her determination renewed. She guided him through the thick underbrush, her movements quick and graceful. After a few minutes of walking, they arrived at the base of a tall cliff. "It's just around this corner," Lyra said, pointing to a small opening hidden behind some vines. They pushed aside the vines and entered the cave. The air was cool and fresh inside, and it smelled of damp earth and moss. As their eyes adjusted to the dim light, they saw that the cave was spacious, with walls lined with beautiful glowing crystals. They shimmered in shades of blue, green, and purple, casting an enchanting glow around them. "This is amazing," Alex exclaimed, walking further inside. "It feels like a hidden treasure." Lyra smiled, her skin glowing softly in response to the beauty around her. "It's a special place for my people. We come here to feel safe and to heal." Alex noticed a small pool of clear water in the center of the cave. "We should drink and rest for a bit," he suggested. "We've had a long day." They moved to the pool, kneeling down to drink. The water was cool and refreshing, filling them with energy. As they rested, Alex took a moment to explore the cave, fascinated by the crystals and the way they reflected light. Lyra watched him, a smile on her face. "You seem to like it here." "I do," he replied, turning back to her. "This place feels peaceful. I can understand why your people would come here." After a few minutes of silence, Lyra spoke again, her voice serious. "We should plan our next steps. The hunters will not give up easily. They will look for us everywhere." Alex nodded, the weight of their situation pressing down on him. "What do you think we should do?" Lyra thought for a moment, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We need to find a way to outsmart them. If we can gather information about their movements, we might find a way to avoid them." That sounds smart, Alex agreed. But how can we do that? I have an idea, Lyra said, her eyes sparkling with determination. We can create a distraction. While I draw their attention, you can sneak around and see where they go. Alex raised an eyebrow. Are you sure it's safe for you to do that? It sounds risky. I can handle it, she insisted, her expression firm. I know how to blend in with the forest. If we work together, we can outsmart them. After a moment of consideration, Alex nodded. All right, but we need to be very careful. We can't let them catch either of us again. Lyra smiled, a flicker of hope shining in her eyes. We will succeed. I believe in us. They spent the rest of the evening discussing their plan, drawing maps in the dirt with sticks, and using the crystals for light. As the darkness deepened outside, they felt a sense of unity growing between them. They were not just a human and an alien girl anymore. They were allies, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. With a solid plan in place, Alex and Lyra felt a surge of confidence. They knew trouble still lingered in the shadows, but together they would navigate this dangerous world. The cave was a temporary hideout, but it also symbolized their growing friendship, a place where they could feel safe and strong against whatever dangers awaited them. Growing closer, as the days passed in the hidden cave, Alex and Lyra grew closer. They spent time planning their next moves against the hunters and learning more about each other. The crystal-lined walls of the cave became their safe haven, a place where they could share stories, laughter, and dreams. Every morning, Lyra would venture out to gather food and explore the forest, while Alex stayed behind to keep watch. He felt protective of her and wanted to ensure she was safe. When she returned, her arms filled with colorful fruits and strange plants, Alex would eagerly listen as she explained their uses and tastes. Try this one, Lyra exclaimed one afternoon, handing him a small, vibrant fruit that looked like a cross between an apple and a berry. Its skin sparkled under the cave's crystal light. It's sweet and juicy. It will give you energy. Alex took a bite, and his eyes widened with delight. This is incredible. I've never tasted anything like it before. He grinned at her, and for a moment, all their worries seemed to fade away. As they shared meals, they talked about their lives. Lyra shared stories of her childhood, of playing in the forests of Vespera with her friends, and the lessons her mother taught her about nature and balance. Alex listened intently, feeling a warmth in his chest. He realized how different their worlds were, yet how similar their dreams were. I wish I could see the stars from your world, Lyra said one evening as they gazed up at the glowing crystals above. I have heard they are beautiful. They are, Alex replied. On clear nights, they fill the sky with light. I can show you pictures when we get back to Earth. Lyra smiled, imagining the distant stars. And I can show you the moons of Vespera. They shine with colors like nothing you have ever seen. As their conversations deepened, so did their friendship. Lyra found herself drawn to Alex's kindness and bravery, while he admired her strength and wisdom. They began to rely on each other in ways they hadn't expected. One evening, as they sat by the pool of water, Alex noticed Lyra's expression was serious. "What's on your mind?" he asked, concern in his voice. "I'm worried about my people," she admitted, her glow dimming slightly. "If the hunters catch us, they might come for them next. I can't let that happen." Alex reached out and took her hand. "We will find a way to protect them. I won't let anything happen to you or your people." Lyra looked into his eyes, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Alex. Your courage gives me hope." As the days turned into nights, their bond strengthened. They worked together to devise plans, practiced survival skills, and explored the cave. Each shared moment brought them closer, and they learned to trust each other completely. One afternoon, Lyra decided to teach Alex how to climb trees, an essential skill in her world. "It's all about balance," she said, demonstrating with ease. Alex watched, mesmerized by her agility. "Okay, your turn," she called, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. Taking a deep breath, Alex stepped up to the tree. It felt daunting, but with Lyra cheering him on, he managed to climb higher than he thought he could. When he reached a sturdy branch, he looked down at her, grinning widely. "I did it. See, I told you." Lyra laughed, her eyes shining with pride. As he climbed back down, Alex felt exhilarated. "That was amazing. Thank you for believing in me." "And thank you for trying," she replied, her smile warm and inviting. In those moments, surrounded by the beauty of the cave and the wilderness outside, they found joy in their shared experiences. Their hearts began to open, and with every shared laugh and every challenge faced together, they knew they were no longer just allies. They were becoming something more. With the hunters still a threat, their bond was a source of strength and hope. They knew the path ahead would be difficult, but together, they felt ready to face whatever came their way. Facing reality. The days in the hidden cave had been filled with laughter and learning, but as time passed, the shadow of danger grew larger. Alex and Lyra had formed a deep bond, but the reality of their situation loomed over them like a storm cloud. They both knew they could not hide forever. One afternoon, as they sat by the pool of water, Lyra's expression turned serious. "We can't keep living in this cave," she said, her voice low. "We need to find a way to confront the hunters before they find us." Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. "You're right. But how can we do that? They are stronger and more experienced in these woods." "I have been thinking about it," Lyra said, her eyes steady. "I know the forest well. If we can gather information about their movements, we can find a way to catch them off guard. But we will need to split up." Alex's heart sank at the thought of being apart from her. "Split up? That sounds dangerous," he said, concern filling his voice. "I know it is," she replied, her tone firm. "But it might be our only chance. If we can outsmart them, we can save my people and ourselves." After a moment of silence, Alex nodded slowly. "Okay, but we need a solid plan. We can't take any risks." They spent the next few hours discussing their strategy. They decided that Lyra would go to the area where the hunters usually gathered, while Alex would stay behind to monitor their movements from the cave. If anything went wrong, he would be ready to help. "Promise me you will be careful," Alex said, looking into her eyes. "I don't want anything to happen to you." Lyra smiled softly, touching his hand. "I promise. I will be as careful as I can. And I will come back to you." As night fell, they prepared for their separate missions. Lyra gathered supplies, including the bright fruits she had foraged and a small dagger made from a sharp stone. Alex gave her a small piece of fabric from his shirt, which he had torn into a bandana. "If you get into trouble, use this to signal me," he said. "I'll come for you." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "And if I don't come back, you must stay safe." "You are important to me, Alex." "I will," he promised, though the thought of her not returning filled him with dread. The next morning, they set out, both filled with determination and fear. As Lyra moved through the forest, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was not just protecting herself. She was fighting for her people. Meanwhile, Alex remained in the cave, his heart racing as he waited. He watched the forest, straining to hear any sounds that might signal trouble. Hours passed, and he felt every second stretch into eternity. He could not shake the feeling of unease that crept into his mind. As the sun began to set, Alex's worry grew stronger. What if the hunters had caught Lyra? What if she was in danger? Just then, a rustling sound from outside the cave caught his attention. He quickly crouched low, trying to remain hidden. To his relief, it was Lyra, creeping back into the cave. Her face was tense, but she was unharmed. "Alex," she whispered urgently, "we need to talk." "What happened?" Alex asked, his heart pounding. "The hunters are planning an attack on my village tonight," she said, her voice shaking with urgency. We have to warn them, but we must be quick. Alex's mind raced. How can we get there in time? It's too dangerous to go through the forest without a plan. Lyra took a deep breath, her resolve strong. We will use the path I know, and we will stick to the shadows. Together, we can make it. In that moment, Alex realized the reality of their situation. They were no longer just two lost souls in an alien world. They were now part of a bigger battle, one that could change the fate of Lyra's people. With a determined nod, he took her hand. "Let's go. We will face this together," he said, feeling the surge of courage. They stepped into the gathering darkness, ready to confront the danger that lay ahead. Together, they would fight for freedom and survival. A new beginning. As Alex and Lyra moved through the shadows of the forest, a mix of fear and hope surged within them. They were racing against time to warn Lyra's village about the impending attack from the hunters. The weight of their mission pressed down on them, but they also felt a strong sense of purpose. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. The forest felt alive around them, each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs echoing in the silence. Lyra led the way, her heart pounding in rhythm with her quickening steps. "We're almost there," she whispered, glancing back at Alex, who was right behind her. His expression was focused, determination etched on his face. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the edge of the village. It was nestled in a small valley, surrounded by tall trees that stood like silent guardians. Soft light glowed from the huts, and the sounds of laughter and music drifted through the air. But there was no time for comfort. They had to act fast. "We need to warn the elders," Lyra said, urgency in her voice. They hurried toward the central gathering hut, where the village leaders often met. As they approached, Alex could see the worry etched on Lyra's face. When they entered the hut, the elders looked up, surprise crossing their faces. "Lyra, you've returned," one elder exclaimed, but her joy quickly turned to concern as she noticed Alex beside her. "What is happening?" "There's no time to explain everything," Lyra urged. "The hunters plan to attack tonight. We must prepare the village for defense." Gasps filled the room. The elders exchanged worried glances, their expressions grave. "How do you know this?" another elder asked, skepticism creeping into her voice. "I saw them gathering near the forest," Lyra explained, her voice steadied despite the fear inside her. "We have to act now." After a moment of silence, the elders nodded, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. They quickly sprang into action, gathering the villagers and preparing for the fight ahead. Alex watched as Lyra took charge, her natural leadership shining through. She organized the villagers, giving them tasks and ensuring everyone was ready. With every passing moment, the atmosphere grew tense. Alex felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He wanted to help, but he was also an outsider in this world. As he stood to the side, Lyra noticed him and walked over. "You should help with the defenses," she said, her eyes bright with determination. "You know about human weapons. We can use anything you can teach us." Alex's heart swelled at her faith in him. "I can do that," he replied, feeling a surge of confidence. He gathered the villagers and shared his knowledge about basic strategies and ways to protect their homes. He showed them how to use sticks and stones as makeshift weapons and how to create barriers around the village. As night fell, the villagers worked together, their spirits lifted by a sense of unity and purpose. They knew the threat was real, but they also believed in their strength. Alex felt a deep connection with them, and for the first time since arriving on Vespera, he felt like he belonged. Finally, they were ready. The villagers took their positions, standing strong and united. Alex and Lyra stood at the forefront, their hearts racing. The sounds of the night surrounded them, but in that moment, everything felt still. Suddenly, a distant rustling broke the silence. The hunters were approaching. Lyra squeezed Alex's hand, and he looked at her, seeing the courage in her eyes. They were ready to fight, ready to protect each other and the village they had grown to love. As the hunters entered the clearing, the villagers stood firm, shouting and brandishing their makeshift weapons. A fierce battle ensued, but in the chaos, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of hope. They were fighting not just for survival, but for a new beginning. With Lyra by his side, he realized that together, they could face any challenge. Their journey had been long and dangerous, but it had also brought them closer. No matter what happened next, they would continue to stand together, ready to forge a new path for their lives. In that moment, under the stars of Vespera, Alex knew that this was just the beginning of their adventure together.